in this episode. What is the potential impact of the US elections on the energy markets? Could we live on renewables alone?
I think it's not that black and white as it's sometimes painted.
Why are bulls and bears symbols of the stock market? Hello and welcome to Uniper's Market Insights. My name is Florian Oberländer. Thanks for tuning in again, especially for this episode, because today it's all about your questions. We collected a bunch of them and will now check with our chief analyst, Gregor Pett, on the answers. Hi, Gregor.
Hi, Florian.
Yeah, we were very curious on what to expect question-wise, and I think we collected quite some interesting ones. But before we come to the questions of our audience, I want to do a quick stop in Houston, where you were at the GasTech, one of the biggest gas conventions of this year. In the last episode, we promised that you give some takeaways from there. So you were on site and also present on panels. What was the mood like? What were your takeaways from there?
In short, I would say security of supply and affordability of energy matters in the current situation. When it comes to sustainability, the industry is investing a lot and has invested a lot. A number that was often quoted was from the Hydrogen Council, $75 billion in the production of green hydrogen. But there's also the situation that the demand for green hydrogen and other green fuels, green molecules, a lot of realism has now kicked in. And it becomes clear that not everyone can afford that sort of energy as of now. And people are looking to governments for subsidies, of course, but it's also clear that governments also have limits to what they can make available. So it's a lot of realism, but still, of course, people working hard to achieve those targets.
Yeah. I mean, last episode we talked about the ambitious goals of the hydrogen economy. Was that part of it as well?
Of course, and that's where the realism is now kicking in, and people are discussing what is possible within timeframes. Need projects, do they need to be shifted? That's the discussion that was going on there.
Okay, understood. Another milestone to mention from Uniper's side was the contract signing with ConocoPhillips about gas deliveries. So to you out there, you can check out the press release on uniper.energy. All right, now ready for the questions of the audience? Yeah, so thanks so much for providing all of these. Unfortunately, we cannot cover all of them at this point, and we combined a few that had like the same topic. And I want to start with a very interesting one. Jonas wants to know, why are bulls and bears symbols of the stock market?
Yeah, that's indeed an interesting one. I mean, that theme of bulls and bears has been around for a couple of 100 years already. I don't think it's exactly clear where it comes from. There are some people say, well, it's because the bull has basically the horns going up and the bear is rather low and has their paws and basically is beating from upwards to downwards and that kind of story. But there's also other stories that close to where the first exchanges were taking place, that there were also bull and bear fights. So I've also read, I mean, honestly, I imagine it's really horrible, that kind of scenario that a bull would fight against a bear. But apparently these things have happened. And people were probably also betting on the outcome, whether who would win such a horrible fight. This is probably also where it could come from.
Yeah, that's the story I heard about it as well. You know, London stock market. Wiebke wants to know, when you see a fully loaded coal ship on the Rhine, how many households could it supply with electricity per year?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, and these cargoes will become less and less because coal plants are phased out in Germany as per regulation. So it won't be that often that we see those cargoes now. But if we assume that it's around 2,000 tons per cargo and an average household consumption, so I would imagine 2,000 households for a year. That's the order of magnitude with one cargo, with one barge.
Interesting.
As we call it.
Yeah, I always find it interesting as well if we have low levels of water in the river, that it affects, you know, deliveries, of course, and prices there as well.
I mean, rail transport is an alternative if rivers are low, but also the barges are often only half loaded, so they go not that deep, and all these things.
Yeah. Okay. Moving over to the next one, it's a renewables one. Lobby wants to know, could we live on renewables alone, given we could also store them? And also maybe what are the challenges of integrating renewables into the existing energy market? That was the second question.
Well, in principle, yes. So in Germany, we have more than half of the electricity consumption is covered by renewables. That's a big success. And in order to go much further, we need to store the electricity, not only short term, like in batteries, but also longer term for a longer period. So energy storage is clearly important. This is where also hydrogen comes in, which can be stored other than electricity for a longer period. So all these things would be prerequisite to go for a 100% renewable system. And in addition, in the case of Germany, but also other countries, there's often an imbalance between where electricity is produced from renewable sources, where it's consumed. In order to connect them, so we need electricity grid connections, and that's often also an issue. So a renewable energy needs space for wind turbines, or photovoltaic plants, and people need to be prepared to give that space to energy production. And that's not always the case. Some people don't like it, but we hope that increasingly people come to the conclusion that it's a good thing to have it.
Okay. Let's stay with the storages for a second here. Bottino wants to know if a gas storage facility in Germany is 100% full, like it's getting close to right now, how long would that last for electricity production?
We have to acknowledge that it's a very dynamic picture. So the electricity demand is increasing because of electric vehicles, because of electrification of certain industrial processes, because of heat pumps people are starting to use in their households. And that increases electricity demand. And at the same time, we have a certain renewables level already. But if we assume current renewables production, current demand, I would estimate around 4 months. That's probably the time it would last if we would, on top of the renewables production, produce the additional electricity needed from gas only and fully use that from storage, and that would probably last like 4 months.
Okay, quite significant. So underlines the importance of storage in Germany as well.
Indeed.
Yeah. Moving over to the next question. Kate wants to know, what are negative electricity prices?
If the supply of, in particular, renewable energy is much higher than the demand, and you have actually to pay consumers to take the electricity for you, that happens in situations where indeed the wind is high and sun shines. At the same time, the consumption is low. So on weekends, this can be an opportunity if you are able to consume that energy, even collect money for it. But it shows that the system is not balanced and we don't have the clear connection between where electricity is produced and where it's needed, and also a sign that it can't be stored. So if we could store it, we could also make use of these price differences. But for the time being, that situation can occur.
Okay, negative prices. Very interesting. Good deal. Carlotta asks, how could digital technologies such as AI and blockchain change the energy markets? And we received a similar one. Is AI also used in trading?
Yeah, the answer to both questions is yes. So blockchain is predominantly an opportunity to establish decentral markets in a transparent and secure way. So it could, in principle, help decentral consumers and producers of, let's say, electricity come together and exchange and trade energy in a decentral and secure way. That could happen, and it's technically possible. There's a number of technical requirements, of course, that we need in addition. There's more electricity needed because that technology is, of course, needs more energy in data centers, etc. So that's certainly, but it's possible. On AI, indeed, AI is largely used in algo trading, for example, or systematic trading. There are markets that are very quick reaction is important, like power short-term markets. It becomes increasingly important that you have technical solutions, including algorithms, which partly also work with artificial intelligence, not all of them, but part of that, to manage these markets, because the speed is much too high for a human.
Yeah.
And then also in the forward markets, there are situations where you would use AI to determine certain developments and react very quickly to adjust your trading position. And you use AI as a support then to detect these developments much quicker. We are not yet at that stage where, like in financial markets, high-frequency trading takes place, and you have situations that you can only manage with algorithms and artificial intelligence. Not yet there, but certainly moving in that direction.
Okay, And our traders at Uniper also use it.
Absolutely, yeah. So we have a team that supports them to develop those tools, and they definitely use it.
Very interesting development,
yeah,
for sure. We received another question from like a mid-sized company. Very good question, I think. How can Uniper help companies save electricity?
Indeed, and not only save, but also become greener. Our sales department offers advice on these topics. Also, Uniper Market Solutions has ideas to optimize the sourcing strategies. And also Uniper wants to become a leading provider of green energy as well. And our sales team is very much open to any discussions on these topics.
Yeah. Yeah, and to you out there, might make sense to stop by our website, uniper.energy. There you see an overview of what we can offer. The newest edition is a PPA configurator, so very interesting for companies out there. Let's move to something that we covered previously already in Uniper Market Insights. Chip wants to know, why do the central bank's interest rate decisions always have an impact on the energy markets?
The Fed in the US has recently lowered the interest rates by 0.5 percentage points. That has multiple influences. First of all, the general economic climate and also the expected energy consumption. So if industrial users basically expect that they need more energy because the economic climate is more friendly, this will have an impact on expected energy consumption. Secondly, also investments, where you need to become much more feasible when interest rates are low, if you have to finance those investments. In general, the sentiment has a role also to an extent. If financial speculators also might seek for the best way to invest their money in. That is in the energy markets less important than the other two factors, but it's also a factor, of course.
It's always interesting to see how these tools are applied and actually work as well. Another question in regards to trading. How exactly does CO2 certificate trading work?
Yeah, in Europe we have a scheme in the sectors that are part of that, like electricity production, for example. You have to, for every ton of carbon you want to emit, you need to buy a certificate for that. And there's a huge system behind that these things are registered, and it's made sure that it's fully compliant and it's safe, that you can't emit without having bought the certificate previously. So the number of certificates is limited. And what happens is that if people buy it and they don't need it, they sell it then. So there's a huge market for those certificates. But the overall number is limited, so thereby it's controlled that the overall emissions are going down. And a system that works very well, and also other countries or regions in the world are looking at that to adapt it and to use a similar system.
It's good to actually see that it's working right now. I think prices are around 65.
Yeah, so exactly 65, between 60 and 70 euros per ton at the moment.
Good deal. No, because when I was in trading a couple of years back, we were still in single digits, so quite a change there price-wise.
Absolutely.
Coming to a question that everybody's curious to know, so this is a really important answer. Well, Shana wants to know, what is the weather outlook for the winter?
Okay, I don't know whether the question is from a skiing background.
Probably.
But unfortunately, we don't have such a clear trend. So last winter, it was clear very early on that it would probably be relatively warm, and that helped from a security of supply perspective. We don't have such a clear trend this winter, so there can be periods of cold weather, but also periods of warm weather in between. So it's not that clear right now.
Okay, so hold on to booking ski vacation at this point.
I'm not a skier myself, but I've heard that there are locations that have previously been secure, but due to the change in the climate are become less secure. So there's no advice I can give on that one, unfortunately.
Let's say we give an update in the next episode.
Yeah, let's do that.
Good. A personal question. What do you personally do to contribute to a greener future?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And also I think we should all be humble then to what we achieve. So only thing I can say is whenever a decision is upcoming, I try to take that perspective into account. So for example, more than 10 years ago, I invested in a heat pump with geothermal heat, which is helpful. Also put some photovoltaic elements on the roof. It's not enough to cover the entire electricity demand. And then also we have an electrical car, but also a diesel car, so we can switch a little bit and try to use the electrical car, which is also a small one, for the short distance, and if we go shopping or do things in the city. And so overall, we try to make it a little bit better all the time, but I think one should really be humble. Our overall lifestyle is very much CO2 emitting, but moving in the right direction, I think, is very much what we need to do.
Exactly. When I saw the question, I had to think myself, you know what I do, so I have similar principles than you do. But also, us two as fathers of two sons, you know, it's important for us to pass that on and to kind of tell them, you know, what a greener future could look like and stuff like
Absolutely,
that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Good deal. Coming to the last question already. Nathan wants to know, what is the potential impact of the US elections on the energy markets? Very good one.
It's not only the question who becomes president and who heads the administration, but also then what are the majorities like in the House of Representatives and the Senate, because all these elements are needed for policies in the US. Also local courts and local authorities that grant permits for projects like LNG projects also have a role in there, and that doesn't change because another person becomes president. So it's much more complex than that. And also I think the discussion is very often simplified. Some people say a Trump administration would be more favorable to hydrocarbons than a Harris administration. In reality, it's more complex than that, and every administration has to deal with these realities, and the majority in the Senate and the House of Representatives. We need to wait how that will play out, and I think it's not that black and white as it's sometimes painted.
Remains interesting, and we will of course report on this in one of the next episodes, where we hopefully have our North American boss here as well, Joe DeLuzio, so hopefully we can ask him some questions in regards to that as well. All right, that covers all of the questions for today, so thank you very much for all of your answers. Hope you enjoyed them as well.
Absolutely, yeah, it's always good to have this interaction and to have people ask the questions. I hope we answered them.
Yeah, hopefully. If not, let us know out there. Thank you very much, Gregor. See you next time around then as well. And to you out there, thank you very much for watching or listening. Until next time, bye-bye.